what I really like is that it's not just the spiritual perspective that points us to this. It's an environmental awareness, it's economics. All kinds of insight point us to how connected we all are. It's, I think, very much in this context that the Dalai Lama says war is outmoded or outdated. Not that it doesn't happen, but in a way, I guess, to reframe it, it should be outmoded or outdated because it's based on an old way of thinking that's very ignorant. It used to be more a world where we could believe that what happens over there doesn't affect us over here. That if we destroy or annihilate an enemy over there, it will not reverberate back. Or if some catastrophe happens over there, it will stay over there. And that it won't actually ripple out. But everything ripples out. And the world now reveals that to us. Even epidemiology reveals that to us. And so the more we understand about life, the more we understand about connection. But that doesn't mean that we like everybody or that we approve of everybody. It's just wisdom, it's insight to say, well, what I do matters because it ripples out. Or what happens to somebody else actually matters to me because it ripples out. That's the nature of life. And so the response to that is something, it's like a movement of the heart that recognizes, well, actually there is no us and them. What if there were only us? How would I be then? Like I have a friend who was apparently a very wonderful therapist, and somebody came to see her one day asking to be her client, and she sort of didn't like this guy, and she didn't like his political views, she didn't like a lot of things about his behavior, and so she said, no, I don't think you should really work with me. But he really wanted to, I think largely because of her great reputation. And so she finally took him on, and she said the most interesting thing happened when she took him on which was that they were then on the same team. And as she put it, he became one of mine. And it's not like she came to like his behavior or approve of his political views, but it's like everything was then seen more in the light of suffering. That's my second mention of suffering. Everything was seen more in the light of suffering. His suffering, the suffering he was causing others. And it wasn't like, oh, what's happening to you is so distasteful, I'm going to keep you way over there. And it has nothing to do with me, because they were on the same team. So when she told me that story, I thought of, in the Buddhist tradition, this concept of someone known as a bodhisattva, someone who has dedicated their life to liberation for the sake of others. And I thought, what an incredible job description, What if everybody was one of ours, was one of mine? But, the point is that it doesn't make us foolish. Like, oh, that's wonderful behavior after all because you're mine, But it's a different perspective on things to see something in the light of suffering rather than something so kind of denigrated or distasteful and over there, way over there, nothing to do with me. So this is connection. Whereas a story I tell a lot originally came from my friend Bob Thurman, who is a professor of Buddhist studies at Columbia University, who told the story. And I have told 1,000,000 times more. And it's very New York, so I like it. He says, imagine you're in a subway and with all these other people in the subway car, and these Martians come and they zap the subway car so that those of you who are in there are going to be together forever. He says, what do? If somebody's hungry, you feed them. Somebody's freaking out, you calm them down. Not because you like them necessarily or you approve of them, but because you're going to be together forever. Well, guess what? It's kind of true. You know, we really do have that kind of relationship with one another, with life as a bigger picture. So like I said, I've told this story 10 billion times in teaching. And then now I usually add this other story where not this past September, but the year before, I was on my way to Tucson to see the Dalai Lama. And I was going a day early to teach myself, to give a talk. And my plane ended up sitting on the runway at LaGuardia Airport for 4.5 hours, which now seems like nothing, right? You know, because you read these stories 10 hours, you know, but at that time it was an ordeal. And of course the reality of it was an ordeal. It was getting hotter and hotter, and people were yelling and screaming, and sometimes I talk about it now looking back as kind of the breakdown of civilization, you know. You know, it was just so awful, and I wasn't feeling that great myself. I couldn't get in touch with the people in Tucson who were supposed to pick me up, and I kept thinking, you know, I have an apartment in New York. Like, I could go home. I could try again tomorrow. You know, why am I here? And all of a sudden, this image of Bob's came up in my mind. Imagine you're in a subway, and these Martians come, and they zap the subway car, and you're going to be together forever. And I looked around, and I thought, maybe these are my people. These are it. And an amazing thing happened, because I actually developed an interest in them. Instead of thinking, would you shut up? You know?